Vehicle batteries, this time on Talking Vehicles with Joe. Now, you know I'm doing a series of videos on maintenance, and I want to talk about batteries today. Now, you may not think of batteries as a maintenance item, but actually they should be. And I'll tell you why here in a moment. The battery, of course, is the device that stores and creates electrical current to help your vehicle be able to begin to operate, operate the starter motor so the engine can be started and make the vehicle run. That's really one of the main functions that it has, but it's also a critical component in the electrical system. All right. Vehicle batteries tend to have a life of somewhere between 4 and 5 years. According to the last statistics that I saw, 90% of the battery, automotive batteries in a vehicle will fail after, 80%, not 90, 80% of the batteries will fail sometime after 4 years. Of the 20% that are left, 80% of those fail somewhere between 5 and 6 years. So as your battery exceeds 4 years old, you're looking at a potential failure, a high probability of a potential failure. So why don't you want to wait until your battery fails to replace it? Why should it be a maintenance item? Why, when it gets to be 4 years old, should you put a new battery in your car? Well, there's a simple explanation for that. As a battery ages, it loses its ability to develop as much current or electricity, current flow, as it had when it was brand new. What that means is every time you start your car, your alternator is going to work harder to bring the charge back up in the battery. Particularly when the battery is aged and the amount of voltage stored in the ability to produce current or flow has reduced in the battery. So your alternator has to work harder to charge the battery back up and bring it back up to a level that the alternator set to expect it to reach. So as a battery gets old and becomes weaker, your alternator has to work harder. So you will be wearing out your alternator more quickly by having an old, weak battery in your system. And when the battery is in the system, the alternator monitors the amount of voltage or current flow and will come on and work more to keep the current flow up to a certain level. Usually an alternator wants to see current in the system at around 12.5 to 13 volts. It will go up to 14 volts to charge a battery and bring it back up to the level that it wants the battery to be at. But typically you'll see it run anywhere from 12.5 to 13 volts. So a weak battery will actually harm your alternator and wear it out more quickly. Trying to milk extra life out of a battery will do more damage in the system. And that's true of almost any maintenance item. The longer you try to milk it and get more life out of it, the more potential wear you're doing to other components in the system. That's why I always recommend replacement of components before they begin to show some type of deterioration or some type of a problem. You want to keep the system operating the way the manufacturer designed it to versus the maintenance or service restoring the performance. If you're restoring performance, if you do a maintenance and you feel a difference in performance or see or can measure some type of a difference in performance, in my opinion, you waited too long to do that maintenance. You risked and probably have done some potential damage or created additional wear on other components in the system. Again, my maintenance goal is always to maintain manufacturer's design performance, because manufacturer's design performance means the most economical operation of your vehicle. It means the safest operation of your vehicle and will get you the longest life out of your vehicle. In the long run, that's the most economical thing you can do. That's the way you save money, by keeping your car functioning properly so it can You can run it cheaper, you can run it safer, and it will last longer. So in any case, back to the battery. I strongly recommend. Now, some newer vehicles have a different type of battery than what we think of as a typical automotive battery that is full of acid or electrolyte. Newer batteries have a technology called AGM, absorbent glass mat. Those batteries will tend to last a little bit longer than the typical lead acid battery. Those will go 5 to 6 years before you start seeing significant amount of failures. But they're also a much more expensive battery. I've heard of those batteries costing $200 and upwards, whereas the typical lead acid battery tends to be, they can start at around $100 to $125 and go up from there. So if you have the more expensive battery, the good news is you're going to get a little more life out of it. The bad news is when it's time to replace it, it's going to cost a little bit more. And that is something we'll talk about in a later video too, budgeting for maintenance and service expenses. Something that most people don't do and really should do. It takes a lot of stress out of your life. But in the meantime, my recommendation to you is check your battery or have a good service professional check your battery, do a load test on it, let you know what condition your battery is in, and make plans to change that battery before you experience a failure. I remember I saw a service advisor one time talking to a customer, and they had load tested the battery, and the battery was marginal in performance at best. And the service advisor said, hey, your battery is reaching the end of its life. You really ought to think about replacing it. And the customer said, well, how much longer do I have? When is this battery going to fail? And the service advisor said, my best estimate is it will fail at midnight on December 31st in a blizzard. And his point being, they never fail at a convenient time. They don't remember to fail when have the vehicle in getting an oil change or some other service at your favorite service provider, or even in the safety of your driveway. They always fail at a time when it's inconvenient, when you're trying to get somewhere or somewhere that you really don't want to be stuck. It makes good sense to change out your battery between 4 and 5 years if it's a lead acid type battery, and 5 and 6 years if it's an absorbent glass mat battery. Have your favorite service professional check your battery, advise you what kind you have, and give you an idea of its age and what the overall condition of the battery is. I'm Joe Ferguson. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope this video was helpful for you. If it was, like, share, subscribe. You know the routine. And I want to hear your comments. I want to hear what you think about waiting for a battery to die versus replacing it on a regular interval as maintenance. Thanks for watching Talking Vehicles with Joe. We'll see you next Friday.